guys, today I'm gonna show you 5 things you can do, 5 methods you can use to spice up your lead guitar playing while just playing a few simple notes. Now, real quick, this is perfect if you're just starting to play lead guitar, and especially if you've always considered yourself a rhythm player, and many of you have actually reached out to me and told me this. You've always considered yourself a rhythm guitar player, but you want to take that leap and start playing guitar solos. Well, these are some strategies that you can use right now. They're very practical, and again, we're not playing a gazillion notes all up and down the fretboard here. We're just using a few simple notes, but we're gonna make those notes count. So I'm not gonna do any fancy editing in this video. I'm just gonna do this as if I were giving you guys a live clinic. I'm gonna pretend all of you are sitting in my studio right now with me, and we're about to go through this. Man, it's probably going to get pretty noisy if we're all playing guitar at the same time. Alright, so number one, I want to show you a cool way to do your bends. And this is really going to help those very few notes just like stand out. So I want you to listen to what I'm doing here and look at what I'm doing here. And then I'll call out the notes we're playing. Alright, so we're bending the string, but we're not just bending the string. So I'm on the B string, by the way. The B string's getting all bent out of shape here. That was a horrible pun. Anyway, so that first little lick, not even a lick. I mean, it's barely even a lick. Remember, we're using minimal notes here, and we're making each note count and sound awesome. So I'm on the 15th fret. Now, typically, you would bend that note up to the sound that you would get playing the 17th fret. In other words, when you bend it, it would sound like this. What I did though in the beginning was something a little different. I didn't just bend it. What I'm doing, and you don't have to do this every single time, this is just a concept that I want you to think about as you're getting into playing lead guitar, playing your solos. I'm almost hitting that peak, but then I bring that note back down a little bit, and then boom, bring it back up again. So I want you to listen to this again, okay? Listen to what I'm doing here. Here's what this does. Here's why this little part is so cool, is because you're catching the listener off guard. You're catching them by surprise. They kind of hear where that note's going as you bend it, like, okay, he's going there, he or she is going there, but then you're like, no, not yet. No, we're not there yet. You bring it back down, boom, and then go at it again, and like, oh, okay, there it is. So it's one of those elements of surprise, right? It's one of those things, it's like the listeners listening to that solo and are like, oh man, that's captivating, okay? Now, I did the same thing, same string, B string, and you can do this anywhere. I'm just trying to keep this simple. Same thing though on the 10th fret. Remember, we're on the 15th fret, bending up to the note that you would hear on the 17th. Now we're just going to go down a ways here to the 10th fret, and I'll show you why I'm going down here. 10th fret, we're going to be bending up using the same strategy, okay? Here we are. Same thing. The reason I wanted to play it in a different spot is because you've got different tension in different parts of the fretboard. So as you're practicing some of your higher played notes, you've got less room between frets, and so your tension is not quite as great. Whereas when you go up the fretboard playing some of those lower notes, you've got a little bit more tension there. So if you're practicing it here, I want you to practice it elsewhere, okay? And again, you don't have to just play those strings. Use the concept. I'm huge on this, guys. I want you to take the concept that I'm sharing with you and apply that to where you think it would sound good. That's how you become a better guitar player and better musician. So now let's move on to number 2. Now, And number two is something you probably noticed me doing with my picking hand as I was bending the string. And this really isn't so much lead guitar method that's going to make your solos great. However, it kind of does, because this is my way of eliminating any possible string noise. I'm going to do that same bend. Watch what I do with these two fingers here. Just pay close attention to this. Now, what happens if I don't? I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'll show you that. But what happens if I don't do what I'm about to show you? Well, this can happen here. Now, let's use the little technique, because you heard all that noise, right? We don't want the noise there. Listen now. Now, I know I'm throwing a little lick in there, and we're about to get to that because there's a little subtle technique, and I'm not going to talk about it right now. We'll get to that. What I'm doing, guys, is we're playing on the B string in this case, okay? What I'm doing is I am muting those surrounding strings with these two fingers, okay? In this case, my first finger is muting, and I'm just hovering over it, right? The E string. My thumbs up, is muting the G string. So whatever notes I'm playing on that B string, because I have a tendency to hit these other strings, or sometimes you just get string noise just from playing, just from the vibration of the guitar, I'm not going to have that. And this is a technique, or tactic rather, that I use all over the fretboard, right? So I'm going to play something completely random here. Hopefully I don't screw up. Okay, I have no idea what I just played, by the way. We're not doing tabs in this video. This is all about concepts. But you could probably notice that on a lot of places I would use my picking hand and just kind of mute the surrounding strings or string, because I had a couple notes that I played on the E string, so there's only the one behind it. And you know, you don't have to do this every single time. As you practice and as you play more, you're going to know like where your problem areas are on guitar. This is not something that I can really teach you. This is not something that's teachable. This comes with experience, okay? This comes with picking up your guitar on a daily basis and practicing, or at least several times a week, which I encourage you guys to do. By the way, if you don't have my practice guide, link in the description, get that. It's called Metal Riffs and Lifts. Metal Riffs and Lifts. It's called Metal Riffs and Licks. So I want to throw that in real quick if you don't have that guide, because that's going to help you establish a practice pattern, okay? But anyway, you'll learn what strings and the areas on the fretboard that you're playing where you're prone to getting string noise. Like for me, that B string down here, and even the G and D string, I'm prone to hitting other strings in between, or just getting noise, right? So I use these two fingers to mute those surrounding strings, and sometimes I'm only muting one string, but I just wanted to get that across there, that you know, you may be a bit different, right? You may have other areas throughout the fretboard where you're more prone to hitting or getting string noise, so just practice that. It's difficult at first if you're not used to doing that, and you may have your own technique, but I encourage you to practice that. It will come natural after a while, okay? Number 3, I want to talk to you about hammer-ons, combining hammer-ons and pull-offs together, but I want you to hear this though. This is 3 notes here. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. Technically, we're going to play 4 notes, all right? But just listen to this. I'm going to do the bend, but I'm going to finish on this little lick here. Just a few simple notes. Nothing special going on here. Just 4 notes, right? We're going 1, 2, 3, 4. We're hammering on, we're on the B string, okay? The frets we're starting on the 13th fret on the B string. We're gonna hammer down on the 15th fret, pull off, back to the 13th fret. Then we're going to play the 12th fret. I'm only going to pick this one time though. This is where this little tactic, this tiny little method, and most people will miss this. But I think you're going to find this pretty fascinating when you start applying it to your playing. Listen. Okay, I'm going to apply that same technique just in a different spot. Remember, in the beginning we were using the 10th fret to bend, so I'm going to play that same thing down here, okay? Again, you may be even thinking right now, Jason, that's cool, but what's so special about that? We're doing a hammer-on pull-off, and then we're going to another note without picking that note. That's not part of the hammer-on pull-off method. Okay, I'm sliding after I do that little hammer-on pull-off. I'm just subtly sliding back to that 12th fret. Listen to this. Do you hear that? Do you hear that little subtle little texture, that little adding of the extra character there? And I hopefully I'm explaining this right, and hopefully you can hear what I'm hearing. But it's just a different feel. It's just a different texture that you're giving that little lick there by not picking that 12th fret, by doing the hammer-on pull-off and then just gently, subtly sliding up to that 12th fret. I wanted to share this with you because I want you to think about this as you're doing other hammer-ons and pull-offs, or even just any kind of lick at all. Just sliding to that note, give it a little milk there, and man, it just adds so much life to your guitar solo. All right, let's go on to method number 4, and this is called raking. It's sometimes mistaken for kind of a sloppy sweep picking method, but it's called raking. And let's just let you hear what this sounds like. Okay, so that first part there, that's a rake. And I'm not talking about raking the leaves. Man, I'm glad that season's over because I'm not a big fan of raking leaves. But what I'm doing here in short is I am playing the 12th fret. Okay, I'm kind of barring with my first finger there the 12th fret of the D, G, and B string. Now, again, you don't have to play exactly what I'm playing. Just use the concept. You can throw this concept anywhere. I'm just kind of simplifying this for you. Now, unlike a sweep pick, a true sweep pick or sweep arpeggio would be where you're letting that hand kind of fall. Okay, as you let it fall, you don't pick out each individual note, and we're going to get to that in a little bit here because I've got something cool I want to show you in regards to sweeping, and that's coming up next. But raking, you're playing those notes, but you're kind of palm muting down here as well. Well, not kinda, you're palm muting, right? You're palm muting as you play those notes. You're gonna play it like you were playing a chord. Sweep picking, you wouldn't hold those notes down. It'd be like, but no, you're doing this. But you're palm muting, okay? And this is just one of those cool little things you could just like throw in there in the middle of your solo, and people hear it and they're like, oh, that sounded pretty cool. What was that, you know? I mean, to me, it almost sounds as cool as sweep picking does when it's not overdone, okay? So, again, I'm on the 12th fret. I've got my finger sturdy on the 12th fret on all 3 of those strings. And you could play it on 4 strings or 5, whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. Again, I'm just trying to keep this simple for now. For this little exercise, strings D, what am I on? D, G, and B, okay? And then I land on that B string, and that's where I start doing whatever riff. Hopefully I can remember what I played. Let's try that. right, number 5, method number 5, we talked about sweep arpeggios or sweep picking just now when we were doing the rake. So I want to show you a little method that you can do with your sweep picking patterns. Now, if you're just starting out playing lead guitar, if you're just starting out playing guitar solos, you're not going to be at this level to where you're playing, where you're sweep picking, okay? So I understand that, but I want you to try what I'm about to show you anyway, because I think it's just gonna help you get to that level very, very quickly. But you're going to get to that level without sounding robotic and playing the same sweep arpeggios that you hear the whole world playing these days. So let's start out with just playing a basic standard sweep arpeggio. Okay, let's just play it, and then I'm going to show you what to do with it. We're not actually going to play what I'm about to show you. I'm just showing you this for the sake of, hey, this is standard sweep arpeggio. Again, we don't really want to play that. I mean, you'll learn that at some point if you're not playing them already. But again, if you're new at getting into playing guitar solos, you're not going to be here yet, and that's fine. That's not what we're playing. So let's break this down, okay? Let's break it down into something that's digestible first of all for a sweep pattern. But we're not just going to play the typical sweep arpeggio pattern. We're going to do something different. And this is where your guitar solos can really come to life. So what I'm going to do is just kind of chop this up and play what's called a sweep triad, which is going to be just 3 notes of that, okay? And we're going to start out on the G string, okay, and then B, E. So we're going to go 12, 13, 12. That's your 3 notes. Now, we talked about hammer-ons and pull-offs earlier, so while you're there at that E string, 12th fret, go ahead and do your hammer-on pull-off between the 12th and 15th fret. Let's start at the G string, 12, 13, 12, hammer-on pull-off, 12, 15, 12, okay? Got it? Now, that sounds robotic. Sounds like, well, Jason, you said not a robotic sweep pattern, man. Here's what we're going to do. You see, we used something that kind of sounds robotic and that you hear all the time. We changed it, though. We added a little something to it. Well, first of all, we took away from half of the sweep arpeggio, half of the pattern there. We reduced it down to just a few simple notes of the arpeggio pattern, but we did something very special after that. We landed on this really cool melodic pattern that's just a series of a few simple notes. So I want you to get used to 2 things here. So do the little triad that we did. Now if you want to get really good at sweep picking, practice that. And just a pointer, remember that's a very fluid motion. You're not picking the notes, right? It's just a very fluid, letting that hand kind of fall and then come back up. Now, what do we do when we get back to that 12th fret G string? Remember earlier, and I think it was method number 3 that we talked about, where we did that little hammer-on pull-off. Then we slid up, right, to the next note, and we just made that happen. Made that just sound so creamy. So we're doing the same thing here. When we land after the little sweep triad pattern we do, when we land on that 12th fret of the G string, I just slide it up to that 11th fret. So again. And I give it a little milky bend there, just like, seriously, it sounds like, just sounds creamy for some reason. I don't know if that makes sense. I kind of want another cup of coffee now, although I don't even put cream in my coffee, but I still think about coffee. And side note, all right, so after that, and again, you know, the notes I'm playing here, guys, is really not important. It's just the concept that I want you to get here, okay? So let me see if I can even remember what I did. Okay, there we go. So from 12, I slide to 11, then, you know, milk it a little bit there. That's just vibrato, just a fancy way of saying vibrato. Probably not a fancy way, just another way, a cooler way, right? Then I slide down to, what is that? The 7th fret, okay, of the G string. I go over to the D string, 9th fret, then back to where we just were on the G string, 7th fret, slide up to that 9th. Really cool little lick there. Alright, so that's the 5 little methods that I really believe you can apply to your lead guitar playing. I feel like this kind of stuff makes you a better guitar player than just practicing endless scales and just practicing the textbook stuff, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that's bad to learn. You need to learn that stuff, although I'll be honest with you guys, after I learned my basic chords, and this is back in like 1989, 1990, when I was just picking up guitar, I think I learned the typical like G scale, D scale. Once you play a major scale or even a minor scale, well, you know them all, because I mean it's the same configuration. But I never really went further into learning theory or any scales or anything after that. I then started just applying some just different things that I was hearing in other guitar solos. You know, I was listening to, back in those days, of course, Metallica. I was a huge Metallica fan, and I still am. But I was listening also a lot of Scorpions, and with Michael Schenker, and a lot of White Snake. You had Steve Vai, you had John Sykes. I was a huge Joe Satriani fan, still am. A lot of the hair bands, a lot of Dawkins, Queensryche. Man, the list goes on. Bad English, and I would hear these guitar players. They would just do this really cool stuff in their guitar solos, that just kind of would make it stand out. And it often wasn't the super fast stuff that they were doing that made it stand out. It was these little nuances. Hopefully I went over some of that here in this video, and I hope that you kind of grasp what I'm saying here. And that's just to try these little things to just throw in there. Don't get so caught up in, well, I've got to be the fastest, guitar soloist, because look, there is no fastest. If you think whoever's the fastest, well, there's somebody 2 countries over that's, twice as good or twice as fast or whatever. But fast doesn't always equate to great, right? I want you to be able to have your guitar solos speak to the listener, to tell a story. I've said this in other videos, in prior videos. I want your guitar solo to tell a story. And I want you to be able to build your own characters from your soloing. So, guys, I really hope this helps. We've gone on for a lengthy video here, so I'm going to cut it. But before I do, if you don't have Metal Riffs and Licks, my free practice guide, it's a great place to start. There's a link in the YouTube description. Also, I want to mention my course, my online guitar course called Metal Riff Master. Now, a lot of you watching are already in that, but if you're not, you get into that now. Join the course. It's a phenomenal course, and I'm not just saying that because I created it. I'm saying that based on the feedback that I've got from pretty much everybody that's in the course, and thank you guys, by the way, for that. But yeah, there's a link in the description of that as well. Get the free guide first. Go through that first if you don't have that yet. Then get into Metal Riff Master, the course. Now, if you've already got the free guide, well, your next step's obviously Metal Riff Master. So get into that. That's going to help you a lot as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you supporting my channel. Our little session here with everybody in the studio, because again, I feel like we're all just sitting in here just jamming together, and really have a lot of fun doing these videos. I appreciate you guys so much. Please give this a thumbs up, by the way, all that good stuff. Make sure you're subscribed. And guys, I will see you on the next video. Until then, keep it metal.